Alright, welcome back, and it's time to take a look at the new Al-Khalid-I platoon. Now there has been a discussion, should this vehicle be tier 11? Technically speaking, if we follow the PC version's game tech tree, yeah, it should be tech 11, but personally, after driving this platoon for the last couple days, I haven't really experienced much of a difference comparing it to a tier 9 or tier 10 main battle tank. Overall, it works. I don't personally feel like I'm driving a Merkava or something similar, so performance-wise it will deliver, but it still has the same weak spots as tier 9 and tier 10 tanks. Now, the first vehicle that I'll be driving today is the Al-Khalid-I. It has a 125mm main cannon, fairly well armored with a big weak spot in the lower plate, but overall very thick turret. Now the thing I like the most about this vehicle is the reverse. This is a very agile and speedy vehicle, and I would say if there's anything that is tech 11, tier 11 on this vehicle, it's definitely the maneuverability and speed. I feel like this vehicle is definitely one of the more maneuverable tier 10s at the moment, but it has the same weak spots. I mean, you shoot it at the lower plate, it has an autoloader, it just blows up. So if you know how to disable a T90, T72, the ZTZ, then it matches the same thing with the Al-Khalid. Now, with the ZTZ99-III, this is a vehicle that I personally planned to, I initially wanted to make a normal gameplay video, but I wasn't able to get good 2 battles with it. For some reason, I don't know. This vehicle just doesn't like me. But I would say the vehicle itself is pretty good. Very good cannon. It can launch tandem ATGMs. 480, 560mm is the maximum penetration of the APFSDS shell. Less armored, and the speed does definitely take a big impact on this vehicle. A reverse 5 km/h. A little bit slower, but it's able to launch missiles. However, that reverse speed, it's a thing that I personally don't really enjoy with some of the main battle tanks. It's the reverse. Coming from someone who plays Leopards a lot, Merkava a lot, having a low reverse speed definitely has an impact, at least on my personal experience. But let's see what I'll do, if I can get in the position, that is, because that's 5 seconds in the battle and I got blocked 2 times. Lovely. But yeah, the Al-Khalid-I definitely is very maneuverable, a very good reverse speed. The main cannon, I don't really think that this is the best main cannon in the tier. I don't really feel like the APFSDS shell on this vehicle is the best. For some reason, I feel like the Leopard APFSDS feels like the Leopard APFSDS is doing more damage. But that's just my initial experience. It has a lot of penetration, it will get the job done in most cases, shouldn't be a problem. But if there's anything that is feeling a little bit unique about this vehicle, is definitely the speed, the overall maneuverability. It's solid, and on top of that you get a decent armor. Of course, when I say decent armor, you have the lower plate weak spot, which is a big weak spot, fairly easy to go through. The side armor is fairly weak too, and I think there is a weak spot in the turret. If you shoot below the main gun, it can technically just destroy the vehicle, so that's a thing to keep in mind. While I do understand players' concern that this vehicle definitely doesn't feel like it belongs in tier 10, and in a lot of cases I would agree. This vehicle kind of doesn't really feel like a tier 10 vehicle. It does feel more like a tier 11 vehicle, to be 100% honest. But I didn't really encounter, the same feeling as with the Merkava, for example, or the Object 268. There are some vehicles that I definitely don't like to see in the tier that they are. For example, Merkava could easily go up to tier 9. I mean, the Merkava could easily do well in tier 10 as well, if we were to be 100% honest. The Object, the BMP-1 for example, that should not be a tier 6, but I feel like with the introduction of the tech tree, I think these things will hopefully be solved. I feel like the tech tree is, when I thought about it, and I looked at the overall platoons, and it does seem like some vehicles are placed there with the expectation of the tech tree landing and then hopefully putting the vehicle in its place. So again, with some vehicles, yeah, definitely shouldn't be the tier they are, but with some vehicles, it's actually the other way around. So with this game it goes both ways. Some vehicles should be tier up, some vehicles should be tier down. It's just how it is. But do I feel like this vehicle is unbeatable? Definitely not. I've had a lot of fails with the vehicle. So at the end of the day, this tank would get blown up the same way any other tank will. In that aspect, it's, well, speaking of blowing up, yeah, that was a bad decision on that vehicle to just go up there. Now, how does this tank play? It does feel like a T90 overall handling wise, but if we were to have a fusion between a T90 and a Leopard, for example, this is pretty much how this feels. Speed wise and maneuverability wise, it feels like a T90, or actually it resembles more the T80U, to be more accurate. It feels more like a T80U or a T90 plus Leopard with the way it handles, which is a nice thing, I would say. Good maneuverability, overall decent frontal armor, good cannon. Of course, that doesn't mean that you should drive the vehicle like it. I mean, it's something that I've noticed actually. I've seen a lot of Merkava style. I've seen a lot of other special premiums or paid premiums being driven around like they're immortal. That's definitely not how you should play the vehicle, because at the end of the day, any vehicle will get blown up the same way. Any vehicle, literally all vehicles have weak spots. There is no invincible vehicle. The closest to being invincible is, I think, with the, what was the name of that vehicle again? The Object 268, I would say. Even that thing gets blown up by artillery, but yeah, you understand what I'm trying to say. No vehicle will be invincible in the sense of pretty much being completely immortal in battle. But yeah, 9 destroyed, well, 10 destroyed vehicles so far, not bad. I've noticed that this vehicle seems to be missing explosive reactive armor, or maybe it's not missing it, I just didn't look at it properly, but it does seem that to be the case. Actually, I think it has explosive armor, I just didn't look at it while it was attached on the vehicle. But would you be, let's say, missing out on something if you were not to buy the vehicle? Personally saying, I wouldn't really say that's the case. Overall, it feels like your average tier 10, tier 11 vehicle. It will perform as good as you perform with it. That means if you play good, it will perform good. It doesn't feel like it's too overblown for the tier. It doesn't feel like it's a insta win. Definitely does not feel like that, because of the weak. If it had no weak spots, let's say frontal plate was immortal, right? Then you could say that it is, insta win. But it has a fairly huge weak spot. Okay, so it's generally speaking not a difficult vehicle to take out. Overall, that's just my experience with it. And that's just my thoughts on the vehicle after driving it for a couple of days. And that was the battle for the first battle with the vehicle, with the Al-Khalid-I. Alright, well, let's go and play the ZTZ99-III. Now, this is a vehicle that I didn't enjoy this vehicle as much as I did enjoy the Al-Khalid. primarily because of the reverse speed, and primarily because I didn't get the proper maps for it. The reverse speed means that you will not be able to go back to cover in a very quick time frame unless you are already hidden enough. Which means that you have to take advantage of the terrain, and you have to basically take advantage of the turret of the vehicle, primarily meaning that you should play the vehicle hold down. Well, I mean, the previous vehicle can also be played hold down just fine, but with this vehicle I feel like hold down gameplay is definitely more recommended, more preferred, because again, that reverse speed is not going to be able to get you out of trouble if you are exposed too much. Any leopard, anything fast is going to easily cut through the armor of this vehicle, so you can't really risk being exposed too much with the ZTZ99-III. Now, this vehicle can launch tandem ATGMs, which I have equipped. Personally speaking, I haven't really felt like those ATGMs haven't been doing much damage, to be honest. On this vehicle, I actually prefer the APFSDS ammo of 560mm of average penetration, which is very decent. The vehicle has the same weak spot as the Al-Khalid, basically the lower spot, the lower plate. If you hit the vehicle there, it basically just blows up. And this is a thing that I kind of been thinking, okay, both of these vehicles have the same autoloader below the turret, basically, in a ring, basically in a ring shape. It's a ring shaped autoloader. Anything coming in the lower plate is directly hitting the autoloader, so it basically gets blown up the same way as the T90, T72, T64 and other vehicles that have an autoloader like that. And with that said, and the armor isn't any more that impressive, to be honest. Since you have weak spots, the upper plate isn't really important because no one will shoot at the upper plate anyway. So, speaking of the overall vehicle tech level and overall, is it pay to win question that is definitely going to be brought up. You know, I feel like in this case of this vehicle, the primary thing that players are focusing on is that this should technically be a tier 11. And I agree, maybe this should be a tier 11 vehicle. It wouldn't hurt if it were tier 11, it wouldn't change anything really. And a lot of players are basing the pay to win aspect on that. Personally, I don't feel like that way after playing the vehicle quite a while. I would say I am not bad with tanks, I can say that much. If anything, if you were to offer me this vehicle and a Merkava, I'm taking the Merkava. And if you were to put that Merkava in tier 10, I would accept it. That's what I feel about this vehicle. I feel like the overall, players being scared of it. I feel like that's unnecessary. I feel like the whole platoon, for example, I don't feel like players should be afraid of these vehicles. Just use the same old weak spots that you see with the T72, T90 and other vehicles that have a lower plate weak spot, and one shot, one hit, boom, gone, premium vehicle destroyed. So while there are some things I agree on, the tier level, for example, yeah, I would say tier level wouldn't hurt really. But at the same time, is it really that bad? No. I feel like in this case, for the most part, the overreaction is what's making the tracks around now. That yeah, if you are playing good with the vehicle so far, you will do well with this vehicle. So that's not going to be, obviously not going to be changed. But yeah, overall, am I happy with the platoon? Well, yeah, I am happy. I'm thinking, okay, what kind of vehicle would I enjoy in TopTier? And you would laugh, by the way, if you're thinking, oh, this guy is about to drive this vehicle in TopTier. No. My favorite platoon overall, my favorite vehicle in TopTier is a Leopard. Leopard 2A4. That's my favorite top tier vehicle. A Leopard 2A4 will smoke this vehicle and the previous one without much of an issue. A Leopard, the T90A, can also do the same thing. I mean, in top tier, it doesn't really matter what you're driving. It's basically who opens fire first and who hits the weak spot first. Doesn't matter if it's T90, Leopard, or Al-Khalid, or any future other tier 10 vehicle. They will all basically be able to penetrate the armor of the opponents. 560 mm of penetration is not going to be able to cut through the upper plate though. You need 580 mm on the M60, and it's pretty funny because we actually have a tier 9, the tier 9 vehicle, the M60A MBT, that has more penetration in tier 11s, and you know, very few players mention that vehicle. And should you be worried about seeing the vehicles being spammed? No. From my experience playing the Al-Khalid platoon for the last couple days now, I seen maybe one or two other Al-Khalids, and that's it. These vehicles aren't that, you know, they are not being spammed that much. Primarily because I think players just prefer the Leopard, like I do. Does that mean that vehicle is bad? No. I mean, we just like the Leopard. That's you know, a Leopard is just a sweet spot tank between everything, and I personally like that vehicle as well. But the Al-Khalid itself is decent as well. So I'm going to, if I had to rate the platoon from like 1 to 10, you know, I would give this platoon a 8 out of 10. I would say. The 8 out of 10 primarily because, maybe even 7 or 7.5 out of 10, primarily because of the reverse speed. The reverse speed is what's, you know, kind of poking my eyes. Good vehicle, but the reverse is just going to make the vehicle use, you know, it's going to make the vehicle uncomfortable for players who got used to fast X, but at the same time, you know, it's overall a decent platoon, and if you do like the platoon, then you can buy the platoon. If you don't like the platoon, well, you don't have to. But with that being said, tell me what you think about the new Al-Khalid platoon. And with that being said, if you like to support me, feel free to like and subscribe. And with that being said, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.